Hey there guys, gals, and non-binary pals, GM Potter here. Welcome to my channel where I review books and bookish things. I upload on Thursdays and alternate Tuesdays with some surprises sprinkled in here and there. So today's book review is going to be a little ranty. If that's not what you're into, feel free to skip this one, but I just have to get this off my chest. So today we are doing His Dark Materials, The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so this book came out in 2000. It has a 4.1 on Goodreads. I give this one 2 stars. Like, it's not good. Like, it feels rushed, and at the same time it feels drawn out. This is the thrilling conclusion to the His Dark Materials trilogy. These books are setting up the war between the rebel angels and God and heaven, and where the new Adam and Eve play their part. I will link the other two videos down below, up above. Rather, not down below, up above. First we'll do the first book, which is The Golden Compass. And then I'll do The Subtle Knife, which is my favorite one. And the fact that I love that book so much just disappoints me. Makes me so much more disappointed in this book. Because it's just not good. The first note I have while I was still listening to this book, because I listened to it as an audiobook, is kind of exhausting. Feels rushed, yet drawn out. As I stated in the previous 2 videos, I read these books back when I was in 6th grade, and I remember liking the first one and loving the second one, and then I had no memory of the third one. And so I'm like, I'm in for a surprise, I'm in for a treat. No, I have no memory because I maybe didn't finish it, because it's just that bad. So in my notes here, I have such a colossal failure of an ending to a series that had such promise. Like, this book series promised to be absolutely amazing and wonderful and interesting, giving you something to chew on mentally. And then it just goes and does this. And it's so frustrating. Everyone gets a redemption arc. Even the most irredeemable characters, even the people who are literally cutting the souls out of children and killing them, get a redemption arc. Because, oh, well, I love my kid. So, okay, what does that have to do with all the other ones that you murdered? Like, straight up murdered for science. Like, what does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? And then, spoilers for the ending, they finally get to the power, or he calls it the authority. Instead of calling it God, it's clearly supposed to be God, but he calls it the authority. And Metatron has kept the authority tied to a litter, like a sled type thing, and they untie him, and then a gust of wind just blows him away. The end. That's the big fight. That's the big... Everything is just some wind. That's it. Just wind. Like, we had gay angels, and that was interesting, and I would have loved, like, some flashbacks or some backstory or something on the gay angels, that one of them was human and was granted the ability to become an angel, and, like, that's really cool. Like, let's move with this. And then they became rebel angels. Well, why did you become rebel angels? It's touched on, but it's not really expounded on. Like, all of the things that I wanted more of, I didn't get. Like, we start out with uncovering a plot that Mrs. Coulter has kidnapped Lyra and is drugging her and keeping her secreted in a cave. And we don't... She gets rescued. The end of that story. No consequences, no nothing. Mrs. Coulter gets brought to Lyra's dad, and she's his captive, but only sort of, and she goes from femme fatale to concerned mother in a way that doesn't feel genuine to the character. It feels like a cop-out. Like, and honestly, that's what it is. It's a cop-out. Like, the whole book feels like bad, lazy writing. Like, it feels like bad, lazy writing, and it feels like the author was under contract to write another book, and to write 3 books, and that this really could have been tacked on to the second book, and to fulfill his contract and get all the money that he had already spent, he cobbled together from his notes this, and it explores evolution, but not really, and it explores, like, the Adam and Eve story is universal across all these universes, but it only shows us that it's in 3 universes, the 2 humanoids and then one with diamond-footed creatures that instead of doing 2 by 2 or just bipedal, they have 1 and 1 and then 2, and then 1 by and then 2 like together. Like, it's just so dumb. It's just so dumb. And so Will and Lyra are fated to be the new Adam and Eve, right? And it's one of those stories where if this were for an adult audience, they would have sex and that would save the universe. It's one of those stories, but because this book is for children, they kiss and surge of feelings, and then the curtain is drawn and it's left to the audience's imagination. And I understand that. Like, I get it. I do. But at the same time, it's frustrating. It feels, for someone, how do I put this? For a kid reading the book who doesn't know about sex, they have no idea what's going on. They might think they know, but they don't know. And so it just feels unnecessary. And for someone who does know about sex, it feels wildly inappropriate. Like in Stephen King's It, there's the child orgy. Like, that's in the book. And I don't blame Stephen King for putting that in the book, because he was doing like a kilo of Coke a day or something at the time he was writing that, plus a gallon of beer. Like, I blame the editor for leaving it in. Like, that's the editor's job, is to say, hey, get rid of this. It's no good. And is this what his editor came up with? Was just draw the curtain across? Like, where was his developmental editor? Where was the copy editor? Where was any editor in this? That it feels inappropriate as someone who knows about sex reading the book, and it feels icky. Like, it feels icky. Like, in it was icky, but it didn't feel as icky as this, because it is not for children. This book is for children. Why are we included a curtained off sex scene in a book for children, involving children? Like, these aren't even really young adult. These are children's books. And anyway, at the end of the story, major spoilers, they have to go back to their own universes, and like, they don't put up any fight with being fated for one another, and now they can't be together, and they're going to sit on a bench, each in their own world, one day a year, and think about the other one. I mean, really? That's the big climax of the story, is that the fated lovers aren't going to be together, and also they're, 11? Like, they don't even know who they are yet, much less what they want in a partner, if they even want a partner. Like, and then the audiobook I listened to is the UK edition. There's also a US edition. The UK edition features not full-on sexual content, but it does feature content that is of a sexually adjacent nature. The US edit is censored to hell. And I get that. Like, I understand why you would do that. In my rant about editors, that's essentially what I'm wanting them to do. But the main most egregious passage that I found where this happened between the US edition, which is the book version I have, and the UK edition, which is the audiobook I was listening to, because I went back and I looked at it, because I'm like, I don't remember anything about this book, but I especially don't remember her having her sexual awakening listening to some random grown-up talk to her. That sounds really creepy and like grooming, and like it just, ew. This large swaths of this book can be summed up with just ew. Like, and there's an assassin set out to kill Lyra, which isn't really resolved. Like, it is, but not in a satisfying way. It just kind of, I'm not going to write about this anymore, so this might as well happen. Like, the whole... And it's got me, this book, being as bad as it is, tainted the other two books for me. Because I went back and I skimmed through my paperback copies of the first two, because I'm like, are they really good, or was I looking at these through nostalgia glasses? Are they really 5 stars? And as I was going through them, I'm like, this kind of reminds me of The Dark Tower, The Gunslinger, in a little bit here and there. Like, there's elements of The Dark Tower, like the first book of The Dark Tower in it. Like, and Philip Pullman has said that he stole from every book he's ever read to put it in here. And mainly he's talking about Milton and Byron and long dead public domain authors. But I can't help but wonder if he stole from more contemporary authors too. And because at times on an outlining level, not at a finished product level, but definitely in a I've dissected this and I've thought about this level, it feels like he was inspired by The Gunslinger a little bit here and there, with the man, like the gunslinger walked and the man in black pursued, like that kind of vibe just kind of feels like a thread that's pulled through all 3 books. I'm probably going to get rid of my copies because this one was so bad. Like, it spoiled the other books, and it doesn't make sense to have the first 2 books of a trilogy sitting on a shelf and not the third one, but the third one is so bad. It's so bad. Like, I don't understand how this thing has a 4.1 on Goodreads. Like, it's 2 stories, because the first 2 chapters are really strong. Like, that alone bumps it up a star from being 1 star, because 1 star to me is completely unrealistic, unreadable, unlisten-toable, unworthy of being committed to the Library of Congress. That's a 1 star, is that why did this even exist to me? So this is 2 stars, because he haphazardly and heavy-handedly makes his point, which, if memory serves, for the God Delusion, Philip Pullman wrote the introduction, or one of the introductions, or a foreword, or something, for the God Delusion, and, like, I think it was the God Delusion. So, he is very strongly atheistic and anti-theist, both. You can be one without being the other. And it gets in the way of the storytelling in this, that he's going so far to show that, yeah, I'm a cool atheist, that it gets in the way of the storytelling. Like, believe or don't believe whatever you want, that's your business. But this feels like an agenda. Like, this feels like he had an agenda. And it gets in the way of the story, and that's frustrating. When the writer's political agenda gets in the way of the story. Heinlein is guilty of this in a lot of his writings. Heinlein, I firmly believe, could have used an editor. That being said, I love The Star Beast. The Star Beast is one of my favorite books. It's so good. But the political agenda was largely edited out of that book. His other writing is largely waxing philosophical and talking about his own personal politics with a thin shroud of story over top. That's what this feels like, but not as intentional. It doesn't feel like professional writing, honestly. It feels like a project, almost. And it's just not good. I wish this book was better. I wish this book was as good as the other ones, or at least half as good as the other ones. But it's not. It's barely 2 stars. By the skin of its teeth, it's 2 stars. And I just could not stand it. I finished it. I had to, force myself to finish it. Like, this, had I not already filmed the other two reviews, this would have been a did not finish. This would have been on my DNF list. And it's just so bad. Have you read his Dark Materials? What did you think? Did you like the Amber Spyglass? I mean, could you like the Amber Spyglass? I am desperate to know who in their right mind gave this as good a review as it got. Let me know in the comments down below. If you want spicier content, feel free to check out my Patreon. It is linked down below. I have a book club where I read a book and go through and discuss it as I'm reading it. Write a post every time I get a couple chapters in. And I also have my spicy reviews, in addition to some other goodies on there. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.